Boom, 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 boom.
This is steel beast, tall as the spires of Moscow Cathedral. Just what have the Germans been doing in this place? The German decided to keep the brain of his friend? I believe something similar happened to Rasputin. This helped. Germans may have need for this. Many things are buried beneath the surface. This depots are circulating legions of unnatural creatures. Filthy pus.
You have to help me. I'm trapped here.
I heard them. A girl. She begs for help. You are the woman the sleeping bear. Useless without travel. Play along. Be careful not to take any. This spot may prove useful to us. You're under sustained attack.
She broke my heart.
There is a way to open the gateway. My father was so close. He said, you have to follow the steps.
These steps you speak of. Do you remember them? No clue where they come
Can you look at this? Go on now. Your flashlight won't work. Put my flashlight. Can't jump up there. So I have to get the old flashlight. Damn. He's got another song. I can finally go home. Please help me. I have to build all the steps. Oh yeah. Alberto Cabeza. The name is Albert Head. You can't see that shit at all. To the left. Yeah. Let me get these done first.
I will salvage this for future use.
放弃完以后是吧？
Explain the purpose of this object, General. If we are to survive, we must make good use of this machine. This weapon now belongs to us. My wits is right now. How is this
I used to get that every time.
60-inch comes from every time the 66-year-old Massachusetts, West London, Yale Cross
It's like crossing over all of it.
and instinctive guidance works 55 miles per hour. Gusts of wind, investigated the wind never been attempting to land in Europe, and to the airport, and the wind provided a track control to the flight, and from the pertinent information.
I think it's this one. I'm gonna try to get up there.
Officials releasing military data for the accident GTA and government shut down. Number 7.
This is what totally does this. What's this going on?
Two stories of apartment. In the remaining impact on U-boats, more than a dozen emergency vehicles were sent into the scene. 6 floors on 8 story buildings have been destroyed. The bus artillery was cut off. As a safety precaution, because of the wind blast.
Down the big outside, no.
Schools and dozens of others. One of the deceased victims was found in the concrete slab of the 6th floor, and the investigation cleaned up by reportedly and Number 6. Eddie July. Here, Congress was catching the video. 61-year-old gas station type Eddie July was shot on the street line. Outside was a current township, Michigan line. Tuesday, with the United driveway in this.
I can hear this talk.
Easy prey in this deep mud.
Continuing to shoot and chase after the woods, he marked around across his front wall. In desperate attempts to escape the final warning ship onto the gun. July went to the hospital and the street while the shooter was
I'm gonna catch him.
July
Nah, it's too late. Now it's time to start the game. And also when you play the book, what's it called? Let's see, quick.
Every step you take brings you closer to freeing me.
I always speak the truth.
I'm not supposed to open that for some reason. Yeah.
From beneath the earth,
This is why you get that hat. So that means you don't die when you look like that.
Fathers in the chambers and doorways, opened by the songs of the ancients. Harness the elements.
Could I already look later? I don't know if you can tell, I'm not kind of lost. Charlie Pendergrass. Why can't I hit it? Anyways. Huh? Oh.
After shows that he's responded to a reported shooting in the town of Pino Victor suffering on contract. Also, the scene was refused shooting, and some 6-year-old Michael Phillips, who was suffering from obvious facial injuries. According to witnesses, the team ran up and over the next mile to the car, and Phillips supposed to answer inside their house.
Having zero I'm trying to get this stuff.
My efforts have been rewarded.
Marketing tech is they can bring trust. 73% of people who start buying from brands that don't trust what they're doing. Protect your brand's reputation and
Guess I'm doing this one first.
Start today with Cookie Bot by User Centers. Almost a good thing for 2020 can and for the authorities with the spirit, stars, spirits, and bridges, indicator, and told the 911 operator
But she found the key then. But she will come It's my time, but it's always my time. I don't just want you. I will take you. After which his colleagues assisted him taking him down at a press conference in June. The each chief named panel presented body camera footage from the incident and what he reported was an effort to be transparent about the investigation. The video will find particularly in the context of recent protests. Can you feel it being influenced by your and suffered broken jaw as he knocked out to get his mouth wide and shut and live to he was charged for obstruction of justice. very nice.
Allegedly was arrested for an example of the systematic use of excessive force by the Decatur Police Department of the city often ignored. Number 8. Alan Queen. In the early hours of March the 30th of 2022, Englishwoman Alan Queen had a daughter went back to Sample and Rock Hotel in Victoria Park in East London after attending a storm performance. The hotel was the first into a recognition of super yachts and managed by an army of army. Even at the doors into the drinking while celebrating the 4th birthday. When they arrived at the hotel, firemen escorted them back to their room. The manager entered the room with them, which the women reportedly found strange. Ellen stood to them and downstairs to smoke a cigarette. Ellen took off her shoes and soft food, and that it was sitting to firemen that it was time for them to leave the room. However, in the moments of the man walked over the woman and started sucking on her big toe. Ellen shouted at him to get out and then rushed to find her daughter. Firemen locked them out of the hotel and the women called the police. The woman called their interaction with the officer saying, I was drunk and swearing in the because I was angry about what he did to me. She told the police what had happened, but the officers
I cannot begin to understand the
and
means
asked
behind
firemen,
this subject.
what do you want us to do with her? Too rich, the man replied, take her away. An altercation ensued and instead of investigating the case, the officers arrested on suspicion of racially aggravated public order offence and assault on the emergency room. Her daughter was dropped off at a train station to make her own way home. After the cell overnight, the case against her was pursued further and the collaboration being treated by the authorities. She abandoned the case against Barbie with more
Usually you pick up all the rocks on the roof.
reporting crime without arrest. If you can't trust the police, you can't trust. You can trust anyone. From New York, and the guest hotel in London, a group of 4 released in the hotel. On January 20th, one of them woke up to find farming walking by foot. The morning in the middle of the night,
reportedly present and forced himself. The man was arrested during the ensuing investigation for the gas in 2008 at the Big Four appointment. He attacked another woman who was living in a flat in the Hilton Hotel in Watford, where he was a manager. In January of 2024, the police contacted him and she agreed to him support, ultimately helping secure a conviction file. The woman noticed his later crimes would have been included, but the police had listened to him.
No, I don't know. Oh, yeah. I hate this thing, man. It's so much to do.
3 counts of assault at Hendon Magistrates Court.
I was running over
Artem Chibinsk. On August 29th of 2024, Artem Chibinsk was walked into California's meth laboratory after his wife. 4 of them began arrested. Nikki Garcia.
Nikki Bella.
Police after they publicly released the commercial significantly hindering Chibinsk's chances of finding them, and then later stated that he was struck with $100,000 because of the arrest. Nikki Garcia had met on Dancing with the Stars, but before had performed for over a dozen seasons, partnering up for season 25 in 2017. Before they started dating, they got married a few years later, and Garcia gave birth to their son in 2020. During August 2024 incident, it was Chibinsk who called his young because he was assistant to she was in the based on an unspecified injury exhibited by Garcia. The Garcia's judge claimed domestic violence but maintained his innocence throughout the legal proceedings. Ethan Garcia requested restraining orders against each other, and in mid-September, the latter filed for divorce, seeking full custody of his son. Then, on the 24th of the month, the County District Attorney Alison Haley announced that the case against Chibinsk would not be pursued further, noting that it couldn't be proven he'd caused his wife's injury, and that there was unwarranted violence against him. In the wake of the decision, Chibinsk noted that his trust in Garcia had been broken, stating not only did she not take the police and the career remained intact, ruling in mind that she used the court proceeding to keep outside the way to make payments from others not to look at him. When that account is still reported, they would share with their son. On the morning of August the 6th, 2024, Arizona man Darnell Cockrell called the police to report that the mother of his 4-year-old daughter had kidnapped him. Cockrell said that the woman, whom he described as a drug addict, had visited his Mesa apartment after he hadn't seen her for a while. She then took off with the child without permission. Cockrell rushed outside after making the call. A Mesa Police Department officer was out of the academy. He had only 2 months of solo patrol duty. Met Cockrell in the parking lot of his complex and told the man that they found her daughter and that she was with the police. Mesa authorities would later report that 52-year-old Cockrell was still into a high level of emotion. The rookie officer demanded that he relax and sit down. Then a second officer arrived and started pushing and pulling on Cockrell in an effort to bring him to the ground. But you were not explaining what they were doing, nor whether Cockrell was being detained or arrested. As seen in the bystander. Here. Just put my hand, so we just stop. Please, would you stop? The 52-year-old refused to go down, saying not because he had bad knees and that he recently had shoulder surgery. He was nevertheless taken to the ground and not touched.
My baby dog, he ran inside me, get on the ground. Get on the ground.
The young officer then told him, you brought this upon yourself. Prompting Cockrell to yell at him, how would you feel if someone brought your kid? That's a dope kid that says she doesn't want a kid that tried to kill him. Following the arrival of the additional officers, Cockrell's handcuffs were removed and were released without any charges. His daughter was safely returned to him while his ex-involved Connor Sharp was brought into jail for disorderly conduct under the domestic violence law. In a Zoom call with ABC 15, Cockrell reported that the incident made him feel less than a person, adding, What do you expect the next time? For me to call the police? I won't do that no more in my life. The cops that brought him down were ordered to undergo further training but received no punishment, as the department didn't feel that they violated any policy. As footage of Miriam started circulating on social media without the appropriate context, Cockrell lost his job. A crowdfunding campaign for him was launched in year 2020. Number 5, Akol Hamid Abbas. In the spring of 2024, Swedish law enforcement arrested 37-year-old Akol Hamid Abbas after Wajir Qureshi, aged 25, accused him of forcing himself on Qureshi, who fled to Europe in Afghanistan in 2020, was at the time married to Farouk Fazil, with whom she had 2 children. Local police investigated Qureshi's claims of abuse, but Abbas was ultimately released without being charged. It emerged that he'd been having an affair with the woman for 6 months, and law enforcement was showing video of them having consensual relations. Qureshi was believed to have made up the abuse story when the affair was discovered. Weeks after the arrest on March the 7th, Abbas told his brother that he was meeting with Qureshi for Ziri, presumably to clear the air, and now was reportedly first considering that something might happen to him during the and was reported missing while in there. Given the previous allegations against him, the police went to Qureshi's home and found the door unlocked. It appeared that the occupants had not been followed. The abandoned apartment had been cleaned thoroughly, but investigators found traces of blood on the couch and in the bathroom. Then on March the 11th, Abbas's body was discovered in Woodman in Stockholm. The man's throat had been touched immediately and he exhibited extensive bruising. His body had been wrapped in plastic and placed in the rubber bag. Qureshi's phone had been used for 30 minutes of the earlier the body in his car. She had easily been charged with murder. Swedish prosecutor Cecilia Tepper reported that the incident had only spoken on the killing, presumably sparked by fake abuse allegations. Investigators learned that the fugitive couple and their children had fled to the US and entered the country using fake documentation. In May of 2024, Qureshi was found in Elk Grove, California, living among fellow.
So Cora got an appointment today. I'll be home soon. Listen out for the phone.
The Swedish government
There's an emergency.
Qureshi be extradited.
Okay.
The man was placed on Europol's most wanted dangerous list with a dangerous designation. Number 4, Daima Lovell.
He was in the fence the whole time. We were right here, like a big terrace house. There's big cameras.
On the morning of March the 5th, 2019, in Florida, Diamond Lovell called 911 to report that she and her friend were taken by and were shot. The suspect, Frank Tom, verbally abused him with racial epithets and told Lovell he was going to shoot his face off and impact. The Miami Dade police arrived at the scene. The distraught victim's interaction with him became tense, and the team began recording fake conferences. The situation escalated when Officer Alejandro Giraldo pushed the mother of 2 into a fence and tried to cover her. As Lovell repeatedly said, "Do not touch me," Giraldo then placed the woman in a chokehold and dragged her to the ground where his 2 colleagues pulled her arm off and handcuffed her. Lovell's friend reacted by crying out, "Why are you doing this?" While she was being restrained, Lovell insisted that she was only trying to call her child into the phone. She was stressed out after having been threatened with a gun. Lovell was charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest without violence. The charges were later dropped. Giraldo said in his report that he initiated the arrest because the woman refused to comply with police orders, in addition to being destructive and causing a scene in the neighborhood. body cam footage, the video of his friend, and the sworn testimonies of other officers involved in the illness seemingly contradicted his claims. Geraldo was fired from the police and was charged with battery and official misconduct, in which a jury found him guilty in 2022, and now was sentenced to 264 days in jail, followed by 18 months.
Trying to do something.
Marshall Jones. December 4th, 2018. Marshall Jones and Ebony Jackson, both of whom were in the outside
I don't even know what the hell this is.
Alabama. Jones was 5 months pregnant at the time in the crux of the dispute reportedly involved the father. During the altercation, Jensen grabbed a pistol and shot Jones in the leg. She survived, but the shooting was after another incident. Johnson originally charged with attempted murder. Jefferson County grand jury dismissed the charges. In June of 2019, Jones was indicted on a manslaughter charge, with the central argument being that she initiated the fight, forcing Johnson to become herself in the Ohio charge. President Grove believed Lieutenant Danny Reed said that the child was dependent on its mother to try to keep it from harm, as you shouldn't seek out unnecessary physical altercations. The decision caused outrage, particularly among women's rights activists. The Yellow Hammer Fund, an organization which helps women access abortion services, released a statement that read, the state of Alabama is proving yesterday, the moment a person becomes pregnant, their sole responsibility is to reduce the life of the baby, noting that any action that included that outcome could be considered a criminal act. Jones is lawyer told CNN, how in the world could you engage in criminal prosecution, try to charge someone with a crime that carries a maximum sentence of 20 years, and all she was the victim? In early July, Denise Washington, the Jefferson County DA, announced that the case against Jones would be dropped. Today's topic was requested by Robot Man. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments.
That's an oxymoron.
Number 2, Molly Watkins.
Yeah, that's an oxymoron. Some shit that don't make sense. Thick nigga was hurt.
A woman in Alabama, called the police on the and told the operator, an African-American man is dancing in the streets and clearly something is wrong with him. The woman was asked if the man appeared to be mentally unwell or under the influence. She replied, either one. 2 members of the RMA.
I mean, I'm just randomly dancing on the street. I probably think you want some shit too.
As he was dancing near the sidewalk in a residential area, Central
I'm not looking for
worked in the neighborhood.
Oh, I think I hit him. No.
As part of his training as a martial artist, when cops asked why he wasn't doing so on the sidewalk, the man pointed out that he didn't want to inconvenience people walking. An officer then asked him, do you feel like hurting yourself today? Frustrated by the question, Watkins repeatedly told the cops how did they gentlemen, but they continued questioning him. He then showed them his keys and pointed to his car, which was nearby. The officer then highlighted that the dancing on the street, to which an exasperated Watkins replied, so what? Before he attempted to walk away. The officers then grabbed him and the situation escalated further. They pushed him against the vehicle, tried to handcuff him and shouted at him to stop resisting.
Racial slurs. There it is.
He told the cops, I do this every day and repeatedly asked them to let him go. Minutes later, 3 additional officers surrounded Watkins and pulled him closer to the pavement in footage that later circulated on social media. Neighbors were heard pleading with the police to let the man go, with one woman shouting, why are you doing problem after nothing? Watkins was taken into custody for resisting arrest. Speaking to ABC 7 one of his neighbors held back tears as he told a reporter, I saw him being abused. An investigation was launched into the officer's programs. In July of 2020, the Allen Naval District Attorney's Office announced it was looking to sue
There's something you gotta do down there too.
that initial detention lacked probable cause.
At the perfect time. How do you go live? Go on, we talk. Where did I put that damn thing?
That's coming up.
I just thought this should look like this. That shit is getting in the head.
Hey, we're a lot of and our clients love this.
I know it makes more sense to put them on. When you get the fire stuff. Oh no, where did I put that down?
Call 1-800-222-2222.
Shit, where am I? Call 1-800 Steam. Stay with me, making sure I'm cleaner.
English bandwagon person had a relationship with Leslie Barr and Hannah Cooper. The relationship broke down in December of 2017 when Garrison left their home to live with his mother. In February of the following year, Barr abandoned their young daughter on Garrison's mother's doorstep and drove off. The sentence Harrison and his mother consequently referred to the women to social services. In the aftermath, Barr sent them rage-filled texts demanding they withdraw the allegation, threatening to ruin them both.
It's usually where I put it.
The woman then proceeded to manipulate the system and make false allegations of domestic abuse against her ex that turned his life into a ruin. The man would be arrested 10 times in 1 month, sometimes in front of family, including his mother, and in the street, pubs and clubs, in front of friends as well as strangers. The first allegation
Singing a song, like you're playing,
and taxed her
dancing in the street.
at the advice of a solicitor pleaded guilty to a fine $200,000 restraining order. Garrison went to court to find none being held eternal. However, no pleaded guilty. Barr then falsely reported it ex and disregarded the protection order just 4 hours after the
Dancing in the street.
trying to force it out for open and throwing stones at the window. Man's also held over for 56 days.
Typical Belgian movies. Which tank I mean? Oh, this one.
On social media and in stories for newspapers.
I know
He subjected her to domestic abuse most of their relationship. The false reports took an immense toll on Harrison.
I went the wrong way.
In addition to struggling to eat, sleep, and hold the job, to protect himself from further false allegations. He moved to Southampton for 5 weeks, and upon his return to Hull, he posted random selfies to his social media. Then on December 1st,
Oh no.
Barr told police that Harrison charged with a knife, cut her on the arm, and trampled down the bike and scared her with arm.
We're gonna down to electric gathering, and then take it higher. We're gonna go down to electric gathering, and then we'll take it higher.
Harrison was running himself apart, flying apart his opposition guns, training
Do I have to? So fucking stupid. In the original Origins, didn't matter which town you went to, you could always get all the crystals.
CCTV.
But in this one,
Police station near his home.
you can only get the crystal from the town you went through.
It was then that investigators began looking at Barr as a potential
You know what I call that? Bullshit.
The 24-year-old
Let me see if I get this one.
in the course of justice, and in the fall of 2022, she was jailed.
There we go.
In 2022, Texas couple Liliana Cervantes remained before he moved from Florida to Houston with the former's young son and their daughter. By the following spring, they reportedly began making it up to the runner, with Cervantes having been
Okay, how do I get out of here?
the Virgin Gallery devastated heart following bruised, brutal heartbeat between Cervantes and Finn on March 20th, 2022. According to the 25-year-old woman's testimony, she was when she saw the rugby, Cervantes ultimately blacked out on the
Oh shit, my dumb ass now. Oh no. What am I looking for? The electricity.
Came to realize that there was far too much blood, and he wasted crucial time trying to catch the man up herself. Cervantes finally got an emergency crew were dispatched to the scene at around 8:45 p.m. 32-year-old criminals were with his cause of death, later being attributed to three stab wounds he sustained including one to the chest. Houston homicide detectives seized the butcher knife and another sharp object from a couple of blood-soaked residents. They determined that in his blacked-out state, Cervantes used the knife to further stab boycott. They issue a warrant. Number 6. Mark Smith, Medallion Wood.
Sorry, I didn't get the fire. Oh, I don't have a box on you all. It's crazy, I thought I picked that up.
Moving into the basement of the Millard household in 2012. It was around that time missions in which they commit best.
I can only have one at a time. That is some more bull. We used to keep it all that.
Smith and Miller were in the test drive moving to offices there's more community within the city of Hamilton. One of the two men arrived at Boston told his wife to be right back. She was calling the police to report.
Yum,
Oh yeah, I'm finna watch them boys. No, because it's an action trying to so.
In court, Smith tried to take responsibility
I feel like you done your building and go. What do you call this?
Man indicated that he'd been smoking marijuana and drinking copious amounts of alcohol on the day murder, which
Marijuana.
partially black out. Miller likewise tried to blame his friend with crime
And purple. Fuck the possibility of parole.
After a lure of alcohol, the last been seen alive in July 2012. Smith and Miller consequently received additional life sentences with one rolled until 2016.
Sorry.
Connor Shine,
Being good, zombie.
Washington man Connor Shine was face down in a stranger's blood-stained July 17th.
Press the wrong one.
Disoriented and unsure of how he ended up there because the investment bar walked down the hall.
He said you've been a good zombie, sir, so far.
He received a tour of the house and counted two
He's down one.
process one.
He's down another.
Shine subsequently to the shower. He purchased 2 containers of gasoline from the convenience store, which he used to set fire to the house. The victim's burning bodies were found in the basket. They arrived to provide a 28-year-old
Let me get up right here first.
assistant and her 2 sons. Milking his lived across the street.
Boy,
He was arrested shortly after the crime.
there's just something you gotta do down here.
According to psychiatrist Dr. Andrew Saxon, who ultimately testified in court before the defense, the suspect had no recollection of the events that led to the 4 primary deaths. Shiner reported to consume 2 bottles of Capital One vodka which triggered alcohol-induced blackout. During the resulting trial, which took place in early 2010, the court urged the month release of firefighters Chinese rulers, Leonidas against the hands of the British family, Haman's
Well,
only
quite lost
the
it.
second king of the guys that one counterpart who was consequently sentenced to death following the four at his conviction in 2018. Number 4,
Yo,
Kendall Gable.
hey,
Shortly after 1 p.m. on November
what the fuck?
2018, the police in St. Petersburg, Florida, recorded a red nurse located at 6151 34th
That's
Street.
purple.
Manager of the restaurant contacted law enforcement after an intoxicated woman, later identified as 52-year-old Kendall Gable, started making a scene.
No, what the hell? Why
She
do you want to
was
second?
custody in a brazen act of defiance, reached her hand into a tank containing a live lobster. She pulled the crustacean out of the water and fled from the restaurant. She was located by the responding sheriff's deputy sometime ago. The loss of her was found. According to the arrest affidavit, Gable was handling the chicken nothing wrong. The criminal
No, that's this one.
she was blackout drunk. She was booked at the county jail and listed in the count of disorderly intoxication before being voted out. The woman's lengthy criminal record included past arrests, drug possession, carrying material alcohol, domestic battery, drug driving, and resisting an officer. Number 3, Derek Barrett. In April of 2016, the found and maintained body of 26-year-old named Michael Glenn was found frozen face down in a blowhole at Stanford on the Central Coast of Minnesota.
There we go. Shit. Why is that so hard? Confusing. They need to have like some type of label. This is number 1, this is number 2. That's the top one, the bottom one. I fucking hate this map.
Upwards of 40 times like blacked out for excessive use of the drug ice. Then comes a body at Snapper Point, but the tourist noticed it 3 days later and brought it to the attention of local authorities. Barrett's wife was reported without a time when the case was initially brought to trial in 2017.
I don't know why people like this game so much. I hate this shit. All this running around.
Barrett was sentenced to a minimum of 34.5 years behind bars, which many believe is a disproportionately lenient punishment for the ability of the discovery of a USB stick enabled authorities to gain a clear picture of the unmentioned abuse that transpired before Lynn was finally killed. The horrific images found on the drive
Gramophone's somewhere else.
Action on the full extent of Barrett's actions during the original trial, she was given a life sentence. Although that sentence
Good damn well I picked that shit up.
Wilson added at least 12 million to Matt's prison term following the USB's emergence. Number 2, Troy Wild. In March of 2008, a Rutgers University student by the name of Clifford Skinner was found dead at her apartment in Wilmington, New Jersey, according to the local police. 22-year-old young son lying with body of the scene. The toddler allegedly made standing action while repeatedly saying, Troy, blames people at detectives. The focus of the investigation subsequently fell upon Skinner's on-again offer their partner. And
Oh yeah, I need to make the
the latter has been intimately involved. It was revealed in court that
yeah, I'll pick it up crystal on here.
it was further detailed how the man once dragged Skinner out of the vehicle by the legs. In the midst of an unconscious argument, when the activity continued online, authorities relied on the testimony of the man's friend, Ken Robertson. Why the courts said Skinner then claimed to have blacked out before kissing her forehead in the sea. When Thompson reached out to find out what had happened to Skinner, Wyatt allegedly told him he just snapped. Man's niece also testified that prior to the stabbing, he said, if she keeps acting like that, I'm going to have to kill her. She's getting on my nerves, in reference to Skinner. Wyatt was found guilty of murder of his offenses and child. In January of 2011, for the review of case by an appellate panel.
And of course,
Which
it's
was
the
improperly instructed on a lesser charge of passion, provocation, manslaughter. Man was retried in 2014, leading to a second conviction for life sentence. 2 years later, the verdict was overturned again after it was determined that the prosecution had wrongly admitted evidence centered around the couple's dispute and domestic violence. The matter was thus sent back to trial. Number 1. Jim Mitchell.
he's 76 years old.
Outside sports bar in Winter Park, Florida, on the night of July 9th, 2019. The witness went into the bar to find the child killed until school 911. The entrance to the bars outside 68 vehicles after the accident went on for about 10 minutes before the child was discovered. Witnesses were able to get the car door closed before first responders arrived.
3, 5, 6, 3, 5,
which was told law enforcement that type of criminal picking up the child or leaving the car. In this way, he faced charges of child neglect and leaving the child unattended in a motor vehicle. Thanks for watching. Visual arts from the contact Watson or
oh shit, that's making right in the face. Yeah, I don't know.
The most important part is the one you need now, and the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance.
What were you first? All of us are
I've been doing it.
here to discuss the broken AI-powered drive.
4% of adult men and 1% of adult women in the U.S. think about their Roman Empire daily. We want to substantially increase their membership, so we'll probably take a little through time and prepare what caused the Roman's lives, disastrous fall of one of history's most famous empires. Was it outside invaders, political corruption, crumbling infrastructure, or tax evasion? The answer may surprise you, although it's likely due to wide variety of factors. Our team of researchers
I don't got the
books and conquered numerous territories in an attempt to replicate the events of and understand the importance of the Roman Empire. Before we really begin,
well, any stuff is going to always have problems.
which are not the same thing. You see,
Romans and Italy.
a massive, strong empire, it was a republic. We recognize that things often happen differently in human history. Monarchies gradually become representational governments.
Treat you like monarchy.
According to legend, the city was originally founded by twin brothers Romulus and Remus, all the way back in 753 BC.
I like you. Right.
The sons of Mars began war, abandoned by a nearby
Come on, let's
king,
link.
rescued and raised by female wolf. As is common with brothers, especially those raised by pack animals, a fight broke out between them, either over where the city would be located or who would rule it. Yet, unlike most sibling fights, Romulus ended up killing Remus, thus achieving sole power and giving Rome his name. In yet another version, a woman named Roma, who was traveling in Aeneas' entourage along with other survivors from the sack of Troy, went to the Tiber River and absolutely refused to venture any further in their journey. To show she was serious and underscore her point to the men, she and other women burned all their kids, meaning everyone who would have ended up staying in the Rome area, whether they wanted to or not. Now, assuming that it's unlikely that two demigods raised by a wolf founded the city, and knowing that the aftermath of the Trojan War is is still quite unclear, there's a good chance that these stories are just a little
Oh, that's over there. I think I did that one already.
surrounding Rome. What we do know about the beginnings of the eventual mighty empire is that archaeological records indicate that Rome was founded in approximately 625 BC, and it likely started as a small trading center on the banks of the Tiber, and eventually developed into a city. Why and how did this happen? Well, at the time, the areas in which the town was located were called Etruria and Naki. Citizens were organized into multiple villages in the region, and they may have unified to defend themselves against an invasion of neighboring Etruscans. A competing theory suggests that the Etruscan invasion was successful and eventually resulted in the village into the city as well. You see, one of the problems with things that happened in 625 BC is that it's hard to find people who would give you a definitive answer about what took place back then. Regardless of what specific event brought the villagers together into a larger squad, the historical record indicates a lot of upheaval and unification around 600 BC. So it's clear that by that time, Rome had moved on up in the world from its humble trading center origins. As it was setting out on its own and finding itself, much like most college students, Rome underwent several changes in its identity. Until 510 BC, Rome was firmly in its period of king's era, meaning it had established itself as a monarch. At least 7 different rulers oversaw the city during this time. The kings came from earlier lines of Portuguese and pursuing civilizations, most notably Etruscan, Sabine, and the Latin lines of kings. Unlike most monarchies, the succession of the 7 kings of Rome was not hereditary. In a nod to foundations that would eventually enable Rome to transition into a republic, the kings were elected by the Senate. After the legendary first king Romulus, the son of the wolf and god of war, may have been a combat to follow. Numa Pompilius arrived
What's
at
name is done.
the lines of kings continued to improve. Probus Hostilius proved to be spared not a hostile protector but an actual Roman king. Ancus Marcius, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, known as Tarquin the Elder, Servius Helvius, and finally, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, known as Tarquin the Proud. The last
It's a Tarquin,
that is referred to by Romans at the time was apparently much less beloved than his predecessors. Historians have found evidence to indicate that his rule was widely regarded as tyrannical, with the public largely against him. While this came to a boiling point when Lucius Superbus' son allegedly forced himself upon a run-like nobleman, Lucretia. Roman residents and nobles alike reacted with rage and wanted Lucius Superbus and his son out of power. Eventually, the king was overthrown, and Rome transitioned into a republic.
Sure, it's not like I didn't do it. That was more fun.
Whereas if you ever studied for the SATs, you know that it's just one of many words based on Latin roots that will keep you up at night studying for the vocabulary section. The transition to the Republic was not important, and some recognition of people's rights already existed. Rome's very own constitution had already been established during its first monarchical period. After becoming a republic, the city was expanding its borders through military conquests, leveling up its economy and production of goods, and increasing trade with its neighbors. However, this wasn't exactly the fair and balanced representative government that you might picture, at least not initially. See, Rome was divided into patricians and plebeians. Patricians were members of wealthy Roman families, and they were the only ones who could hold elected office and religious office.
Alright, I'm gonna just get the ice that I can see what I can go to.
Romans were held by senators and knights, meaning the upper classes held
Trying to get all these stats and do that Easter egg.
republics that exist today. Occasionally, if the upper classes felt it was merited, they could nominate a dictator.
I did a 5-star first.
Prices, but for the most part, the rule of the patricians held for centuries. However, this wasn't solely achieved through the famed Roman Senate. Although the Senate existed at the time, it wasn't the formal lawmaking body of the Republic. The members were also appointed, not elected, an important distinction from today's legislative bodies. However, the powerful patrician members of the Senate held a great sway in society and exercised it over Rome's actual lawmaking groups to get their way. The patricians looked down on the other segment of society, the plebeians, and enacted laws mostly in their own benefit. However, the plebeians, justifiably discontent with the state of affairs, struggled to gain more control within the government of the Roman Republic. From the start of the Republic in 509 BC until 494 BC, the Senate persisted as the only governing body within the state under the leadership of the 2 consuls. That was until the plebeians organized a strike to assume some power. And the victory for both unions and democracies everywhere, the strike worked. This led to the establishment of several legislative bodies created to give more power to the people. These were divided up as follows. Comitia Inmediata passed laws, made decisions regarding acts of war, and collected consuls, censors, and praetors. The Concilium Judicis, though it started as a ruling body specifically for the plebeians, it eventually expanded its scope of power to make decrees that applied to all people in Rome, including the patricians. The Comitia's tributes
I'm trying one more time, and if it doesn't work, then I'm just go with the online.
It was open to all Roman citizens, well, at least those who were free adults in possession of the penis, which was the case in most ancient societies. The two consuls in charge of this all commanded both the Roman military and oversaw the Senate, not unlike the current powers of the President of the United States. However, as opposed to the former Roman monarchs, the consuls had substantial limitations on their powers. First off, they could only serve for 1 year, leaving them limited time to accrue and thus wield power. Second, there were additional magistrate positions within the Roman Republic that also held decision-making power, thereby keeping the consuls in check. To further strengthen the Republic and rule of law, the Romans decided to codify many new laws at the time. In 451 BC, they came up with something known as the 12 Tables, a collection of laws about politics, as well as private and public affairs. Thanks to continued expansion during Rome's existence as a republic, by 338 BC, this once small city-state was ruling the entire Italian boot-shaped peninsula. Of course, this expansion is far from linear, as they did suffer quite a few setbacks. For example, the neighboring Gauls came in and sacked Rome in 390 BC. However, the young republic managed to build again and take control of all of Italy under the leadership of Camillus, a revered military leader. Further expansion occurred during the Punic Wars, which lasted from 264 BC to 146 BC, and were fought between Carthage and Rome. At the time, Carthage was an impressive and incredibly powerful city-state on the northern coast of Africa, approximately located near modern-day Tunis, Tunisia. There were 3 Punic Wars in total. After the first 2, Rome expanded to control the western Mediterranean, including Spain and the island of Sicily. They also defeated one of the greatest generals and military tacticians of all time, the legendary
They still
He continued to rule Carthage for some time after being defeated by the Romans. His financial and tax
maybe I did it, I was correct.
imposed by Rome made him extremely unpopular. He eventually fled east all over the world, Bithynia in modern-day Turkey, where he was betrayed and revealed to the Romans. To avoid capture, he poisoned himself. At the end of the Third Punic War, which took place between 149 and 146 BC, Rome finally bested its formidable foe and burned the city of Carthage to the ground. Many surviving citizens were sold into slavery, and this entire region became a Roman province. Simultaneously, Rome also expanded eastward, defeating the once mighty kingdom of Macedonia and Macedonia.
Ah, shit.
200 years after Alexander the Great had overseen this
Come on.
aside from the increased territory and economic decline and the acquisition of these provinces via military victory gave Rome, it also helped to develop Roman society and culture as a whole. As you may notice, if you ever walk through a town and city, Rome took quite a lot of architectural, religious, and artistic details from the Greeks and integrated them into its society. The Greek pantheon of the gods was given new names and turned into a Roman language. Roman literature began in Greek, jumpstarted by translating classic Greek texts into Latin. The writings of Greek philosophers influenced a lot of Roman thinking and philosophy going forward as well. Perhaps this was part of the reason for Rome's relative success. Instead of solely concentrating on turning their captured cities to the ground, though they did that sometimes too, they also learned a lot of knowledge, art, and new perspectives from the civilizations they conquered. By this time, the Roman military had become a formidable force.
Okay,
The military expansion marked Rome as the premier power in the Mediterranean, one of the ancient world's foremost centers of economic activity. Alas, it seems the Roman Republic expanded too fast for its own good. The Republic started to fall apart from within, leading to political instability and eventually civil war. Discontent led to turmoil, reform, and coup attempts as inequality spread throughout society. Thanks to wealthy landowners using their resources to power and push small farmers out of public land, the wealthy patricians also used a considerable force to exert pressure on the government, so the Senate increasingly ended up working in their favor, reversing many of the earlier gains made by plebeians in society. Disagreements among leaders led to factions forming within the government, some supporting plebeians, others patricians, and some military. Gaius Marius, a military leader, became consul in 107 BC and ruled for several terms, acting more like a warlord than a leader. Has made him many enemies, and by 91 BC he faced challenges for power, including from General Sulla. Taking advantage of a Roman tradition allowing dictators to be elected occasionally, the upper-class elected L. Cornelius Sulla in 82 BC. Despite being a dictator, Sulla surprisingly stepped down in 79 BC. However, his lives are strong tons of trouble, marked the shift from republic to empire. A lot of Romans ended up wanting to change the status quo. Some took the path of working within the system to try to course correct the wayward direction of the Roman Republic. This included leaders like the Gracchus brothers, Tiberius and Gaius, who enacted several social reforms during the period of 122 BC to help the poorest members of Roman society. Unfortunately, they were killed for their troubles. Seemingly discouraged anyone else from trying to help the poor, others took a more violent approach to political change. In the 1st century BC, Roman senator Lucius Catiline, along with a whole contingent of Romans, downtrodden, and had become incredibly discontent with the state of Roman society, laid out a plan to overthrow the government. He was about to go through with it when Marcus Cicero, a famous Roman orator who exposed him to the Senate. After his failed insurrection attempt, an army of the Roman Republic chased Catiline into Gaul and murdered him and most of his followers. The Republic became incredibly unstable and was embroiled in endless civil wars. This fostered a further gravitation towards following dictatorial and eventually it all came to a head with one man, Julius Caesar. Caesar assumed power in 60 BC and had an ambitious vision for a Roman Empire. He sought to conquer huge swaths of mainland Europe, far away from the Mediterranean countries and the places that the Republic had control. He started venturing north, and by 51 BC, had taken over Celtic Gaul. In addition to power and prestige, this made him a significant amount of wealth, and so he could steal Gaul's resources.
When you're drawing where we want, just type that into Google. Get some ideas of that. Making your home away from home feel a little more like home. Just tap Google.
That got to the right way.
When you travel well, your ticket can take you to more than just your destination. It can take you to new shared memories. When you travel well.
Want to see a magic trick? Prepare to be amazed. Never before.
I'm going to
Forces and people. Though Rome hadn't fully become empire yet, as the Senate was still in existence, the senator's powers were significantly weakened. This was best exemplified when they ordered Caesar to turn back and forego his conquest of Gaul, and Caesar responded by completely ignoring him and doing what he was going to do anyway. While maintaining immense popularity with the Roman public, thanks to his successful military exploits and popular writings about travel and politics, Caesar continued to rankle other senators and former allies, creating a troubling stir in Roman politics. This was part of the reason he was eventually assassinated in 44 BC. Over 60 conspirators, many of them political officials, gathered together on March 15, now forever called the Ides of March, by contentious people, and stabbed Caesar
contentious people.
If the assassins thought the death of the headstrong Caesar would solve their problems and help them get some of their power back, they could not have been more wrong. Due to Caesar's popularity with the people, the public turned completely against the Senate, whose wealthy, out-of-touch members they hadn't exactly loved to begin with. This led to
that's why
such a
gotta go
divorce
up.
until a new ruler emerged. Caesar's grandnephew and Augustus' son, Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, better known as Octavian for short.
Alright, now hopefully
Alongside Caesar's former friend, Mark Antony,
that's all I gotta do for these stuff.
and he renamed himself Augustus Caesar, a nod to his adopted father. When Mark Antony was killed during Rome's conquest of Egypt, Augustus remained the sole ruler. This made him the first official emperor of Rome, achieving the ambitious aims of his father. His reign was lasting 41 years and
Put the
represented
gramophone in the fireplace.
In fact, this period became known as Pax Romana, meaning Roman peace. Before Augustus' ascension, the Roman Republic had undergone a long period of crisis, instability, and turmoil.
At least you didn't need to put down the gramophone to go to the teleport places. You just put it with nice name, which is.
Even after Christ had established him as sovereign ruler for life, instead of
Oh my god, where's the hole? It's still not there. What the fuck?
his lands to quell revolts and encourage peaceful coexistence with the people Rome had previously conquered. He then focused his attention on creating stability and prosperity back home. During the Pax Romana, Augustus enacted many social reforms. He wanted to restore his vision of morality in the Roman Empire. He passed several laws to discourage adultery and encourage the birth of children. In fact, families with 3 or more children were frequently rewarded, especially if the kids happened to be boys. This contrasts starkly with the promiscuous, indulgent, and downright Epicurean image we have of most Roman emperors today. In some surprisingly progressive moves, Augustus also granted women citizenship and a number of rights, such as the right to inherit property and to manage their own finances. He also provided a path for slaves to gain freedom, though he made it quite clear that there would be a limit on how many slaves could actually become free. Augustus also established a regular census to ensure a fair taxation system and really supported even more people. This helped accurately assess the tax burden of the provinces and made collections fairer and more manageable for Roman citizens. Lastly, Augustus created the Praetorian Guard, veterans of the Roman legions, and carefully screened and selected to serve as the emperor's bodyguards. Literature, architecture, and art reached an apex during Augustus' reign, and many of the most famous Roman sculptures and grottos hail from this period, like the Ana Apis Augusta, built between 13 and 9 BC. Due to all these factors and his benevolent rule, Augustus was loved by the people both during his reign and after. After his death, he was immortalized as a god, and he would be the last Roman emperor to be bestowed with his honor. Augustus' rule moved Rome into its imperial period, perhaps the time it's best known for, as after his rule, Rome conquered, well, pretty much everything it could get its hands on. The kingdom prospered and expanded, maintaining power by assimilating many of the people it conquered into his empire, but also politically making a fair amount of conquered people slaves, working for the construction and advancement of the Roman Empire. Unfortunately, not every Roman emperor was as well regarded, competent, and widely respected as Augustus. Neither you may have heard of the oft-mentioned historical figure, Caligula. Known in historical circles as a crazy, violent emperor, Caligula's name eventually became used in modern society as a standard for anyone deemed to be extravagantly evil and unstable. Perhaps it came as a surprise to everyone except him, at least, that his life ended via assassination. Caligula had developed an unfortunate habit of sending several members of the patrician class to death on conspiracy charges, whether merited or not. This understandably significantly soured the relations between the emperor and his Senate. One day, in late January 41 AD, Caligula was making his way to lunch through an underground passage in Palatine when 2 tribunes of the Praetorian Guard, Cornelius Sabinus and Cassius Chaerea, murdered him. Historians doubt that they committed this act entirely by themselves. Several notable Romans, including the politicians Annius Domitianus, Valerius Apiaticus, and commander Marcus Clemens, were indicated in the plot to assassinate Caligula. However, Caesar didn't know about it and investigated all that much after the emperor was killed. They would see something and say nothing policy. So one might say that Caligula's carrying the accusation of conspiracy became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Soon after his death, Claudius will proclaim emperor in his place. However, here's where Roman history can get a little distorted and unclear, and reveal the underlying political leanings in play as the empire expanded. For example, one of the Roman emperors who thought that he possibly the worst human being ever to exist wasn't actually all that bad. We are, of course, talking about Nero, another man widely regarded as a stain on the imperial throne of Rome. Known in popular history for playing the fiddle while Rome burned, Nero had actually done quite a lot besides that to piss the Roman population off, according to historians of the time. He emptied the treasury, leaving the city effectively cash-strapped, murdered anyone who dared question this action of his, or really any other action of his, and generally came across like a bit of mess. In addition, his biographer Suetonius wrote that Nero practiced every sort of obscenity, including incest, animal cruelty, and flat-out murder. When that's what your own biographer was right about you, perhaps you take the wrong part in life. Over time, historians have started to suspect that the particulars of the stories about Nero may be untrue. For example, the fiddle story is almost certainly fabricated, seeing as the fiddle wouldn't be invented caused another millennium. But a raging fire did strike Rome at the time. In the summer of 64 AD, it was blazed less than 70% of the city's buildings and made half of its population homeless.
I'm about to quit this.
Angry Roman population looked for someone to blame, and a rumor quickly spread that the already
quit this.
set to work to rebuild the city of his life. His contemporaries thought that this rumor would be quite easily believed. After all, people generally aren't likely to give big sessions hostile puppy-kicking monarchs the benefit of the doubt. The other problem was that while this massive conflagration was devastating the city and its people, Nero decided to make his way up to the top of the city walls and stand there guard and recite a poem about the destruction of Troy, while collectively weeping with emotion as he imagined the beautiful new city that would arise from the ashes. Legends at the time had him strumming an ancient version of a guitar known as a kitara while reciting this epic poem. As you can imagine, this did nothing to endear him to the people who were running for their lives from their historic houses, who had already put up with this BS for several years. However, there is one big problem with all of these accounts. They may be somewhat, or mostly false. More than that, they may actually be outright propaganda from the time. Part of the problem for a lot of historical records about Rome, really any civilization, is that we have to parse out the biases of the sources. And many modern historians or archaeologists are not questioning his Nero's reputation as one of the most evil rulers of all time is actually deserved. You see, contrary to the popular belief that Nero was disliked by the Roman population, it appears he did actually be disliked by the elite instead. Unfortunately, Roman elites were the people who mostly shaped out history with New York during this reign, which began when Nero was a very young 17 years old. He enacted tax reforms that pissed off the wealthy, but made life significantly better for the lower classes. He also loved games, theater, and entertainment, perhaps why most into the story about him, as in playing music while reciting the poem, and encouraged such activities amongst the Roman population, organized events like chariot races. This won him fans among the public, even as it garnered his name.
Try one more time, if it's not down there.
Several important public works projects. In many artworks and coinage at the time, he is depicted as an emperor well-liked by the population at large. So why would the Roman writers who were Nero's contemporaries make up so many vicious lies about it? Curator Torsten Albert of the British Museum points out a simple truth. The sources need to be seen as text with a clear agenda. Many Roman writers seem to prefer the old days of oligarchical rule in Rome and detested an emperor who seemed to favor the support and wants of the masses instead.
Here's the red one.
Now uncovered evidence that moving down to Rome, Nero was actually 30 miles away from the city. So not only was it unlikely he was responsible, but he definitely could not have made his way to the top of the city walls and started playing a fiddle, even if he thought it's not to say that Nero was a blameless angel. It's very likely he either killed his mother or forced her into ending her life, and he definitely loved partaking in some extravagant spending for himself. However, perhaps painting a depressing picture of the era, neither of these were exactly unheard of acts of monarchs at the time, as killing relatives to secure succession or favor was not all that rare. He also set Christians on fire, blaming them for starting a blaze that burned down Rome. Yet again, though, horrible abuse and mistreatment of Christians was pretty par for the course for Roman emperors overall. So while Nero has been immortalized as an ostentatious, evil, bloodthirsty, unstable, maniacal ruler, the actual problems of his reign and the reason for his eventual downfall seem to have been much more practical and grounded in reality. They also pointed to the issues that would plague the Roman Empire and eventually lead to its collapse. Nero
Then he said, we are on the Shark Tank.
Funded by old tons of the Roman people, while extravagant and spending tons and tons of money. Simultaneously, he was fast from the
I'll craft the fire stuff too.
Massive sprawling empire and dealing with the unrest and revolt that ensued after an empire had its slaves.
Just upgrade the fire stuff.
In one corner of the kingdom, Nero faced
But to be honest, all you really need if you want to get to what I got around is this one right here, the ice stuff. Because the fire stuff glitches out after a while.
Before launching a counterattack. In the other corner, the Parthian Empire, located around the region of present-day Iran, was ready to go to war. These events all happened within a few years, testing the endurance and long-term possibilities of the Roman Empire. More significantly, Europe also started facing dissent from his own supposed subordinates. The governor of Gallia Lucaniensis, known as Gaius Julius Quintus, with a B, unlike the popular Clinton product, rebelled against Nero's rule. He was joined by the Roman governor of Spain, Servius Sulpicius Galba, who challenged Nero for his power and position. Though Vindex and his forces lost, which led to
truly.
more and more politicians
Be careful with my stuff.
as they relate to Spanish provinces. One prefect of the Praetorian Guard, who essentially functioned as Nero's head bodyguard, also declared allegiance to Galba. Nero, understandably fearing for his life, fled Rome. With almost no support from the Senate, he had just passed a vote declaring Nero enemy of Rome. The young emperor realized that his reign, and most likely his life, was coming to an end. In an effort to avoid the humiliation of public execution, he killed himself at age 30. Since he had no official heir, the Julio-Claudian dynasty that his great-great-grandfather Augustus had implemented ended with Nero's death. As a result, Galba took up the mantle of Roman emperor. Even at this relatively early time, the cries of the Roman Empire were already beginning to
The only thing about this spot,
far-flung territory and keeping together a massive expanse of land. In the age of slow communication and travel was a daunting task, at times seemingly impossible. Couple that with dissatisfied occupied people, local Roman rulers who would sometimes decide
that's gentle.
turmoil, and you have the makings of a beginning of the end. For example, the fall of Galba would be short-lived. The year after Nero's death became known as the Year of the Four Emperors, which, as you might have noticed, is a significantly higher number of monarchs than you'd expect to go through in a year, though the period did actually last a bit longer, amounting to a little more than a year and a half. The quick changes in leadership indicated nothing particularly productive or good going on in the Roman Empire. Let's zoom in on what exactly happened. The year was 69 AD. It was the worst of times, and that's pretty much it. With the endorsement of the Senate, Galba had started his victory march to Rome. Unfortunately, a word that was beginning to pop up in the description of Roman emperors from here on, Galba had already acquired a reputation for breeding cruel. After just 7 months in office, it became clear to the people of Rome that his reputation was well deserved. He frequently functioned as a judge sentencing Roman men to death due to his own unconfirmed suspicions. He would also seize Roman property on a whim and rename it.
I have no idea where the Galba machine is either.
Were allowed to tax and punish others on the basis of political favors. Corruption flourished under Galba, and Roman citizens started to bristle at his administrative affairs. The masses tried to pressure Galba to punish 2 of his most corrupt lieutenants in show of petty defiance and dismissal of the people's will. When this was discovered 4-year-old, Galba promoted them.
When Shakespeare starts to feel a bit complex, and you've got questions about
I thought it said to where in that room.
Stern and civil rights. Spoiler alert,
Halloween is up to 60% off at Michael. That means monster deals on Halloween hosting, DIY, supplies, and fun.
Shit.
The Gospel of Saul isn't just a school of Latin, it's the school of combat when you are transformed from the Latin outsider to installed to follow. When you return to church
Nobody cares about the third.
He's a real community in that respect, as he tells Katie often along with the philosophy. In this moment, Michael represents hope. Corino who might escape, Corino who might be able to prepare for life. Once his father is shot, Michael is pulled back into the orbit of the family business. What begins as an act of loyalty, necessity, visiting Heathrow Hospital.
It's time to see what the light. See for about what we did. Around 50k, around 35. There it is.
It's eternal. He knows this is the only way, insisting to his brother and to himself that it's just business, but it's also his first step to the family's violent world. Cold following the Washington assassination required a ever-increasing tension. The camera lingers on Michael's face as he steels himself, his eyes lighting up with trepidation before the explosion of violence. This is no going back.
See, I want my flashlight.
Michael is transformed. The baptism is left to baptize in fury while his enemies are executed. It's both horrifying and purifying. The duality of Michael's life is taken over his body and soul, but of course, his soul. The final image shows his face as a real movie, confirming the transformation. Michael will become dull. Part 2 begins with Alan. Another part this time Michael's from social media, but it's not with a detailed family wedding intimate and a smile. Michael's part is clear.
Got 34 shots in this motherfucker.
They're watching the American as symbolized by Francis Times that which ends with roughly of those believers that the cancer is lost. All is gone. Michael is now height of his power. He's rich, big, ruthless. On the surface, he has achieved everything as part of multiple family. But when these are built power to the world, Michael is
Oh, the Magna Collider.
the assassination of a power.
I'm gonna go get that.
His empire becomes a king. He begins to suspect everyone, even his Sarah.
If I can ever make it out of here.
His marriage with Kate collapses. Period of danger and distrust culminates in a devastating revelation. And this marriage is actually brutal. But the most tragic moment of betrayal, Michael discovers his betrayal, and though Fraser was and pitiful, Michael cannot do it. Claiming oblivious, Michael betrays his brother by injury.
I don't think I can jump over it.
The cost becomes clear. Michael sits alone as his late father stays silent, cold. Coulter cuts to a flash. Young Michael's ability yields the truth. Stillness has nothing to do with plan. The contrast is brutal. That young man never changed. And the contrast
What the fuck? What is my Magna Collider?
One of I think enemies with the first are two people. China's narrative.
Double tap, that's what that does.
How did you know those expressing my people not through dialogue, but through expression, from hard, hard. It's an incredible program, and one wonders how effective and moving the movie would be if Al Pacino didn't deliver before his performance that year. There's so much injury in the way his eyes stunned those around him. The Marco Corleone Part 2
Guess I don't get it.
suffering, hungry, never the eye is often controlled over whatever is true, or oppressed ability. The only speaks may be necessary, and friends are willing
That's a damn Panzer.
Solus is juxtaposed by intense desperation. Paranoid,
Remember, he played the devil in that one movie. This is a great training spot right here. 25. Right down, but until all the damage, the wave might start coming out. Put it right here. Shit.
The shock, the revelation, the revulsion, and then Fredo
Oh my god.
twisting the knife further to find the heart, and you see his face just sink to death in the earth. That is in the beauty send the signal to the bird. Turn back and find the sun. He covered the feelings and shot fast in contrast to one.
I just forgot what I'm going to. Oh, I didn't see one perks.
Lewis said decided to play the guy. No, not because of the spectacle which is quite disgusting, but from the brother and sister. Michael cannot now himself to protect my flame. Another fantastic result is that Michael is mentioned his high.
This is if I only have 4 runs. If I don't run mule kick. Oh, damn. It's definitely going down here.
Just like he was unable to get up and return his position, he was unable to stand as he buried himself whilst the long left the sun his farm. It's emotional, deep, and you didn't expect up from that. Then,
What the hell?
has it been